Yeah, welcome to In the Paint, everybody. I'm Dan Tanner, your host for reaction to Nuggets and Rockets. There's about 45 seconds left in this one. The Houston Rockets will end the Denver Nuggets 6-game win streak. 113 to 99 is your score right now. And yeah, the bench unit is out. Good effort by the Nuggets end of the bench guys at the end of this game. They actually ended up going on an 11-0 run and making this somewhat interesting over the last couple of minutes, but lots to get into here on the post-game show. We saw David Adelman get tossed, and if you were watching on the broadcast, you heard exactly what he said, and he earned that technical. It was his second technical of the game. So I want to go over the game and everything in just a little bit. We'll hear from, I'm not even sure if Adelman will speak. I don't know if he speaks. If you get tossed, it might be Jared Dudley, who took over the head coaching duties once Adelman got tossed, and this thing just went final. 115 to 101 is the final. So there were a lot of interesting things about this basketball game this afternoon between the Denver Nuggets and the Houston Rockets. If you remember going back to Monday, okay, Ime Udoka, after that game on Monday where the Nuggets won in overtime, got fined $25,000 for his comments on the officiating in that basketball game. Now, what he said was obviously very finable. He wasn't wrong in his complaints. In fact, the 2-minute report came out the next day and said there were 3 missed calls in that overtime period that benefited the Nuggets. So whatever he was griping about, seems like he has a fair point. But man, this was a very contentious basketball game. And, you know, the Rockets didn't get their first foul called on them until the 7-minute mark of the second quarter. So just interesting. I just wanted to point that out. I'm not trying to make a conspiracy theory here or anything like that. But my goodness, like, you've got Ime Udoka after the loss in overtime to the Nuggets on Monday, it's saying the officials were starstruck by Nikola Jokic, I guess he was talking about, and they don't get a single foul called on them until the 7-minute mark of the second quarter. Not one. In fact, Joker got to the free throw line about midway through the second quarter. That was the first free throw attempt of the game for the Denver Nuggets. Okay. Well, credit to Ime Udoka, because whatever he said seemed to carry some weight with the officiating today. You know, I'll have to check. I don't believe it was the same officiating crew, but I'm not sure on that. So maybe somebody in the comments, if you heard that, if you could let me know, that'd be great. But either way, this was a very oddly officiated game. And I like what David Adelman did. You know, this game was over. So it's almost like, who cares about the technical? I'm not huge on coaches getting technicals, especially in close games, but I'm very pro technical in these sort of circumstances. And what he was getting pissed off about, and if you heard him on the broadcast, he said, "What the F are you doing?" Screaming that to the referee. You could hear it on television. Nikola Jokic was getting just mollywopped in the paint. And there's been several instances this year where, not just this year, this has been kind of a reoccurring theme over the last couple of years. In fact, to the point where Michael Malone, when he was the head coach here, has talked about this at length. Nikola Jokic just gets the shit kicked out of him and doesn't seem to get a lot of those calls. So I think that's the frustration was just boiling over for David Adelman at that point. And I liked what he did. You know, like, every once in a while, your head coach has to do that stuff. And I thought, actually, going back to Malone, I thought Malone was pretty good at picking his spots when he did that. And I thought this was the perfect time for Adelman to do this. Okay. I liked it. We'll see what I don't know. I'm really interested to hear if he's going to talk after the game. He was, he got a technical in the first half as well. You could tell, like, David Adelman, we have him on our show on PhD on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5 once a week. He's a very relaxed, chill dude. He's pretty easy easygoing, laid back kind of guy. Malone was much more fiery. Malone would wear his emotions on his sleeves. But there's been a couple times this year where David Adelman, his face was beet red during that scenario where he ended up getting kicked out of the game. And it was cool to see that emotion from David Adelman tonight. It's just, this is a weird situation. The game itself between the players was very contentious in this basketball game. You saw Bruce Brown and Kevin Durant jawing at each other. Bruce was, they kept showing clips of Bruce at the Avalanche game last night, and he's sitting there getting fired up watching Josh Manson kick the crap out of whoever it was on the Winnipeg Jets. I think they played the Jets. I might have gotten that wrong. Anyways, I was sitting there watching. I'm like, I wonder if that got him a little fired up going into today's basketball game against the Houston Rockets. Look, it's the second time in 4 or 5 days they played this team. It's the third time this year. The Nuggets are still 2-1, so they still do have the tiebreaker. But he was very fiery the whole game, and I loved it. I mean, I love seeing that out of Bruce Brown. He was getting right in Kevin Durant's face. I think he was doing that somewhat on purpose just to try to get in Kevin Durant's head, because Kevin Durant was spectacular tonight. He was far and away the best player on the floor for either team in this game. He was just cooking, and he's 37 years old, but he is still an elite scorer, one of the best scorers in NBA history. But this was a very contentious basketball game. This is starting to feel like a bit of a rivalry that's brewing. And if you can imagine these two teams going at it in a playoff series, boy, would that be exciting. If they meet in the playoffs, I have a feeling that will be one of the most contentious series in the Nikola Jokic era as far as playoff series goes. And they've had contentious series before between the Timberwolves and the Lakers and what have you. But man, that was I know the Nuggets lost and they didn't play well at all, but that was a fun game to watch. Just these teams do not like each other at all. I mean, it is obvious. And, Ime Udoka, again, his comments on Monday night got him fined $25,000. He said the officials look starstruck. And again, I'm assuming he's talking about Nikola Jokic, but whatever he said, I mean, it seemed to have an effect on this afternoon's game, because like I said, the Nuggets didn't get their first free throw until about middle of the second quarter. The Rockets didn't get one foul called on them the first 19 minutes of this basketball game. The first foul was halfway through the second quarter. So I don't know, like, Joker got in foul trouble early. I thought the calls on Joker, at least the first two foul calls on Joker were legit calls. They were the right calls. So I'm fine with that. Just a very, very odd basketball game at Ball Arena tonight. So I want to get your thoughts. Feel free to comment away. I'll start sharing those as we go along here. For the game itself, I see some people in the comments frustrated with Cam Johnson. Look, this was just a horrendous offensive performance for the Nuggets. They're the number one scoring team in the NBA, and the Rockets are elite defensively. They're the number 2 rated defensive team in the NBA. I thought they were outstanding on defense tonight. This game felt more like the Rockets won, their defense won this game versus the Nuggets offense lost this game. Now, I will say the Nuggets started getting into trouble in the second quarter. They just stopped moving. And sometimes they'll get into weird lulls like that where they just stop moving. And what that allowed Houston to do was just pressure whoever had the ball. So I don't know why they get into those weird lulls on offense where they just decide to not cut to the rim. They decide to not, pick and roll. The 2-man game kind of disappeared between Jokic and Murray. And I think the Rockets defense had something to do with that. But the fact that the Nuggets just stopped moving, especially without the basketball, allowed the Rockets defense to really sort of take over and clamp down on the Nuggets. I mean, it's odd seeing the Nuggets struggle this much offensively, because they have been the number one scoring team in all of in all of basketball this year. They score 101 points tonight. I didn't even think they were going to get to the 100 marker. Like I said, that those end of the bench guys came in and actually played pretty well. They went on an 11-0 run. They actually got it to within 10 points with like 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go. But yeah, this just a weird offensive game for the Nuggets. They just couldn't get it going. We've seen lulls like this before throughout the course of this regular season, but the Nuggets have always seemed to find a way to figure it out. And tonight they just weren't able to do that. And it didn't help that Nikola was in foul trouble throughout this game. It just they just could not get things going, could not get things working on the offensive end. Cam Johnson really struggled tonight, or this afternoon, I should say. 6 points, 2 of 10 shooting, just 1 of 3 from beyond the arc. But it wasn't just Cam. I mean, everybody struggled offensively besides Nikola Jokic. It wasn't efficient, Nikola Jokic. He just shot 9 of 20 from the field, did finish with 25 points, but just 5 assists and 7 rebounds for Nikola Jokic. Yeah, just really, really odd game. I actually thought Jonas Valanciunas had a pretty good game. He shot 5 of 10 from the field, 10 points. Thought he was really physical. That second quarter, they were making a point to start that second quarter. Well, actually, it was the end of the first, because they had to take Nikola Jokic out because he was in foul trouble. I thought that he did a pretty good job of getting inside the painted area. The Nuggets dominated the painted area, especially in the first half of this game. I don't know what the final tally was for points in the paint. Yeah, the Nuggets outscored the Rockets 50-34 in the paint. The problem for Denver is Houston was on fire from 3. They were 19 for 35 from beyond the arc. 54% were the Houston Rockets from 3. The Nuggets were 8 of 29, 28%. So, yeah, you can dominate in the paint, but if you allow a team to make 19 threes on 54% shooting, you're never going to win those games. And that's what we ended up seeing tonight. So it's just those are the problems that have been reoccurring issues for the Nuggets over the last couple of years, specifically their 3-point defense. Look, I get it. This team, I hate making excuses, because it seems like every team in the NBA has a bunch of guys injured right now. It's just been a really weird year as far as injuries, but your 3 best defensive players are all out right now. Okay, let's not forget that. Again, I don't like making excuses for this team, but I think that's a pretty fair excuse. Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, and Aaron Gordon, your top 3 defensive players, your 3 best athletes on the team, are all out. So that didn't help the Nuggets defensively. That second quarter just was absolute puke offensively for the Denver Nuggets. They scored 16 points in the second quarter. It was their lowest scoring quarter of the season. But, you know, I do see some comments, people frustrated with Cam Johnson. I get it. He was not good tonight. But I will say, taking today's game out of the equation, okay, Cam's been much, much better over his last 15 games versus his first 10. So his first 10 games, he played 26 minutes a game, scored 7.5 points per game, was 37% from the field, and 21.5% from 3. Those are Cam Johnson's numbers the first 10 games of the season. Not including this afternoon's game. Over his last 15, he's up to 34 minutes a game. Obviously, he's playing more because the Nuggets have a lot of their starters out. So 34 minutes a game over his last 15, 14.5 points. So he's doubled his point total per game over his last 15, shooting 51.5% from the field versus 37 in his first 10. And he's shooting 48.1% from 3 versus 21.5% from 3 in his first 10. So Cam has been settling in. Okay. He's been much, much better. Again, he wasn't good tonight. Really, nobody was good offensively for the Nuggets. I thought Jamal Murray really struggled in this game. Nikola had 25 points, like I said, but not efficient. Just 9 of 20 shooting from the field. A very, very frustrating game. And you could see that kind of playing out throughout the game. I mean, I don't remember a game where the Nuggets have been more frustrated in a loss, just like jawing with everybody. Very, very odd scenario. Okay. Adelman is talking. Okay. So I will be interested. We'll get to him in just a second once I can get it on the right spot. But yeah, I'm going to be very curious to hear what David Adelman had to say. I can never remember if coaches talk after they get kicked out of a game or not, but apparently they do. So, all right, let's go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll hear from Nuggets head coach David Adelman. Curious to hear what he has to say after the loss tonight. That was a very weird game. Very, very weird game tonight at Ball Arena. All right, let's see here. All right, here is the head coach of your Denver Nuggets.
There, finishing cuts, playing through a lot of physicality, which we need to do a better job of. But I did think we created a lot of really good looks that didn't go down, especially we'd make a run, cut it to 5, cut it to 7, cut it to 9. It felt like we would miss a shot, we'd miss a dunk, they'd make a 3. So there was a lot of those moments. They shot the hell out of the ball tonight, 19-35. So you give them credit from that standpoint. Just one of those games in the NBA. They played better than us. That's why they won.
Is this a situation where this is just one of those games where you're due for a shooting performance like this, or was the process different leading up to it?
No, I don't think it was. We're doing the exact same thing. We missed some really good, like I said, we missed some good looks, and I think it can kind of drain you a little bit. When you're playing super hard, and things that have happened for us naturally over these first, 26 games, it just didn't happen tonight as far as the shooting numbers. So yeah, just one of those nights. Really, by the way, really, really proud of the guys at the end of the game. Pressing and trapping. They had to keep their guys in the game. So we're just proud of that group. They came in, they didn't come in and just kind of go through it and go through the motions of a game that we're down. They cut it to 10, had a chance. Honestly, I thought we had a chance there to get it under 10. And so I'm really proud of that group. It says a lot about those guys and their belief in our team, and their belief in who they are in our team, because everybody's collectively a Denver Nugget. And when you get your chance, play hard. And I thought they did.
This is the second time Reed Shepard's gotten hot against you guys. Yeah. I felt like the end of that third quarter was kind of pivotal. What did you guys lack when it came to keeping him in check?
Yeah, when he's out there with Kevin Durant, it's hard to be crazy aggressive and pick and roll because now you're leaving him, because you have to rotate behind it. But we didn't do a good enough job getting through screens. And then when we were up with him, I didn't think we were up enough. He was shooting rhythm shots, stepping into his shot. And he's obviously a really talented offensive player. So, yeah, you're right. It's twice, and it's been the same kind of stuff. We're just too far down the floor. But beyond that, you got to get through picks. Like, you can't get screened like that, or we got to learn to do what they do and fall down. Like, if we can do that, maybe you get a call from the official. But we do a much better job on Reed. I felt like he got a rhythm because early in the game we didn't touch him. And once a guy like that sees it go in, something destructive can happen, and it did.
What made you think enough was enough to get the second technical?
It felt like a reactionary game earlier in the week. That's what it felt like to me. It felt like they had one foul, with 5 minutes to go in the second quarter. And I just felt like both teams were playing so hard, extremely hard, physical. I give the Rockets so much credit. They crash the glass every time. And then we get 2 somewhat soft fouls on our best player, which leads to him fouling twice that are fouls, and that leads to 4 fouls. He's got to come out of the game. So honestly, I was confused. And so I was just looking for answers. And I went out there to find them, and turns out I had to leave. So sometimes confusion can lead to destructive things, right? Like you got to think things through yourself sometimes, You go to other people, and sometimes they just don't want to hear you. So it was
You went a long way to get an answer. Did you get
I did, and it seemed like he just kept walking away further and further, And I thought we would talk, and it turns out they told me I had to leave and the whole thing. So yeah,
that's what happens when you tell an official to F off.
All right, 2 things.
Okay. I apologize you couldn't see the video there. I know you could hear the audio, you could hear it, but yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, and that's kind of what I said to start the show. Like, this felt like a reaction to Monday's game with the way the game was being officiated. Coach just mentioned it right there. I said it earlier. The Rockets didn't have a single foul called on them until middle of the second quarter. Like, okay, we can, if we want to go look back at the tape and see maybe there wasn't a foul, but it just seemed like a very weird scenario. That the way this game was officiated, factoring in everything that happened on Monday night with Ime Udoka, the head coach of the Rockets, comments after the game saying the officials looked starstruck. The 2-minute report comes out the next day, and the league did admit they missed 3 calls that went the Nuggets' way that shouldn't have. Okay, that's fine. But let's not forget, like, Nikola Jokic and Jonas Valanciunas both fouled out of that game on Monday. So, yeah, I get what Ime Udoka is saying, but also, like, then again, Nikola Jokic and Jonas Valanciunas both fouled out in that game. So, Joker he was in foul trouble within the first couple of minutes of this game today. First couple of minutes. And the Rockets didn't have a single foul called on them until middle of the second quarter. It just seemed like Monday's game influenced what was going on tonight. I did like how Adelman said, I thought we were going to have a conversation. Like I said earlier, if you were listening on the television, you could hear exactly what he said that got him tossed. He said, "What the F are you doing?" Screamed it to the, like, right in the ref's face. He's like, "Yeah, they told me I had to leave." Yeah, when you scream in an official's face saying, "What the blank are you doing?" That's probably going to get you kicked out there, coach. But hey, I liked it. I mean, like I said earlier, Adelman isn't necessarily a fiery guy. A lot of the times, he's very easygoing, kind of laid back. He's kind of the polar opposite of Michael Malone, who was a hothead and wore his emotions on his sleeves. But at some point, you got to stick up for the Joker. This has been happening for years and years and years now, where Nikola just gets the shit kicked out of him, and it seems like he doesn't get as many calls as he should. I mean, look at his freaking arms. They're torn up after every game. It's insane. And it just doesn't seem like Joker gets the benefit of the superstar call. Let me just say this, though. I'm anti-superstar call for anybody. Like, my philosophy is it a foul or not? Regardless of who the player is that had the infraction, and regardless of who the player was that other player fouled. Is it a foul or not? That's why I hate when a lot of broadcasters talk about, if you're up 20, you can't expect to get those calls. Which, I'm not saying the broadcasters are wrong, but I hate that. It shouldn't matter where the score is. Is it a foul or not? Period. We see this happen in all sports. We see this happen in the NHL. There's been so many Avs games I've watched where the Avs will have a big lead, and the guys will say, hey, you don't expect to get that call up 5-1 or whatever the case may be. No. Is it a foul or not? The score and the time and the circumstances should have no factor into what calls are being made or not. So that's always been something that's kind of bugged me. And again, you just heard Adelman say it right there. It just felt like today's game was a reaction to Monday's game. That's what it felt like. You tell me, Nuggets fans, what did it feel like to you? All right, let's get to some of your comments here. Oh, boy. Rokul, sorry, I totally messed that up. We knew before the game we were going to lose. Look at the energy some players bring. You'll have to explain that to me a little bit more. Not exactly sure what you're talking about. But I will say the Nuggets definitely, it looked like they came into this game with a lack of energy. Maybe is that because it's an afternoon game? I don't know. But it did look like the Nuggets were lacking a little bit of energy. I think that's why Bruce Brown was trying to get in guys' faces on the Rockets. He was trying to hype his guys up, and it just, like, Peyton Watson came off the bench and chest bumped him after he made that shot and started jawing with Kevin Durant. It did seem like there was a little bit of lack of energy from the Nuggets this afternoon, and credit to the Houston Rockets. Like, their defensive effort was outstanding. Their energy levels were high throughout the game. Kevin Durant was balling. He was their best. He was the best player on the floor tonight. No doubt about it. Better than Joker in tonight's game. Let's see here. Martin the vet. Nuggets couldn't hit an open shot. That also really hurt them tonight. They're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA. They don't take a lot of threes, but they make threes very, very efficiently. That wasn't the case today. They shot 28% from three, 8 for 29. The Rockets were 19 of 35, 54%. I mean, there's your ball game right there. So free throws, it was 18 of 23 for Houston. So the Rockets got 23 free throws. The Nuggets got 23 free throws. They were 19 of 23. Isn't it funny how it works out like that? But the fact that the Rockets didn't get a single foul called on them until the middle of the second quarter was insane. I don't think I've ever seen an NBA game where a team has 0 fouls called on them midway through the second quarter. I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but it just seemed really odd. It really does. Let's see here. Will Adelman get fined twice? I don't know. He'll probably get fined, but I don't know if he's going to get fined twice. What he just said in his postgame press conference was nothing compared to what Ime Udoka said on Monday. I mean, he earned that fine. He literally said the refs looked starstruck. Yeah. Both coaches got ejected in 2 games. I'm telling you, this has the feel of a budding rivalry. It really does. I hope these teams meet in the playoffs. That would be an epic playoff series. Now, if the Nuggets are healthy, if both teams are healthy, you'll put it that way, I think the Nuggets would handle the Rockets no problem. But it does feel like this is the start of a budding rivalry. And if they meet in the playoffs, it's really going to ramp things up. Yeah. Interesting stuff. So, tough loss for the Nuggets. I believe they fell to the 4 seed. Let me check that real quick. If they fall, this is how close the West is this year, everyone. The Nuggets just went on a 6-game win streak, and they fell to the 3 seed. Okay. The Lakers might play later, so they could potentially fall to the 4 seed. I'll have to check that. But you lose 1 game, and the West is so tight right now that's what's going to happen. The Spurs have won 5 in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. The Thunder did lose. That's good. So they're 25-3. But they're 8-2 in their last 10. Nuggets are 7-3 in their last 10. The Lakers are 7-3 in their last 10. The Timberwolves are 8-2 in their last 10. It's just one of those years. It's been like this in the West for a long time, but this year feels like extra tight. I mean, there is a 2.5 game difference from the 2 seed to the 6 seed. 2.5 games from the 2 seed to the 6 seed. Like, as good as Oklahoma City's been this year, the Timberwolves are only 7 games back of the Thunder in the 6 seed. Like, that's how tight the West is this year, everybody. So that's just what it's going to be. I don't think the Thunder will give up the 1 seed. They're just too good, too deep. Maybe they have some injuries or go through a rough patch. I mean, we'll see. But, this is what's going to happen in the West this year. You lose a game, you're going to fall in the standings. I mean, the Nuggets won 6 games in a row. They're 20-7 on the season, and they fall to the 3 seed. The good news for the Nuggets is they've been really good on not losing back-to-back games this year. In fact, I don't believe they've lost. Have they lost back-to-back games this year? Let me check here real quick. They have not. So the Nuggets have yet to lose back-to-back games this season. That's been what's helping keep them in the upper echelon of the Western Conference. And they're going to have to beat a Utah Jazz team who always plays the Nuggets hard. So that's going to do it for the post-game show this afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you listening. We'll be back on Monday to react to Nuggets and Jazz. That game's at 7 p.m. That'll conclude the Nuggets' 4-game homestand. And then they've got Tuesday, so back-to-back Monday and Tuesday. They'll travel to Dallas to play the Mavericks on Tuesday. Then they'll have Wednesday off, and then we've got the 8:30 Christmas night game here at home against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then they go on a 7-game East Coast road trip. So big part of the schedule coming up here for the Nuggets, but we'll be back coming up on Monday to react to Nuggets and Jazz. Thank you for listening to In the Paint right here on Altitude Sports Radio.